Call this meeting to order. Determine that there's a quorum present. Commissioner Gordon is here, Commissioner Vasquez, Commissioner Nettleton, Commissioner Flores, and myself. We have a quorum. Commissioner Flores, if you don't mind, y'all please rise. Commissioner Flores, if you don't mind, lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
20,000. Item 4, Juan, you will give us the privilege of reading the individuals' names from Uvalde.
But McKenna Lee Elrod, Leila Salazar, Miranda Mathis, Neve Bravo, Jose Manuel Flores Jr., Xavier Lopez, Tess Marie Mata, Rogelio Torres, Eliana Eli, Emery Garcia, Eliana A. Torres, Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, Jackie Cáceres, Yesenia Garcia, Jace Carmelo Luevanos, Maite Juliana Rodriguez, Jayla Nicole Silguero, Irma Garcia, Ino Mireles, Emery Joe Garza, Alexandria Lexi Anilla Rubio, and Alicia Ramirez.
At this time, if we please have a moment of silence for the 19 children and 2 teachers. Thank you. Item 5, approving and amending minutes from the previous meeting. Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Citizens' comments, I have none. Item 7, approving monthly reports from elected officials. Have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second Commissioner Nettleton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 8, approving bills for payment.
Second.
Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 9, presentation by David Gonzalez, Director for PFM Financial Advisors LLC. Mr. Gonzalez, you can front, please, sir. I guess you've already gone through our financials and seen our budget and seen how much money we already owe. Right?
That's correct, Judge. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I have a presentation. If I could go ahead and proceed, I'm just going to hand them out to you all.
Give me 2 and I'll get it back.
Okay.
Just try to punch it.
Again, good morning, County Judge, Commissioners. My name is David Gonzalez, and I'm with the financial advisory firm PFM Financial Advisors. I'm out of San Antonio. The presentation I have before you, a lot of this material was included in the RFP, and I'm not going to spend too much time in certain sections. I'll spend a little bit more time. This is just an informative presentation. I'm just going to give a little bit of introduction to PFM, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some, possible scenarios way down the road. With that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you all have any questions, just let me know, and I'm happy to go ahead and and answer any questions you all have along the way. If you jump to page number 2, PFM is the largest and #1 ranked FA firm in the country for 25 consecutive years. We have offices in Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. We specialize in all kinds of municipal bonds, cities, counties, school districts, higher ed, energy, utilities, housing authorities, sports complexes, et cetera, et cetera. If you jump over to page number 5, slide number 5, This has a list currently of the county's debt at this time. So what you have on your books, starting from the bottom up, you have some revenue and tax bonds 2011. You have some limited tax bonds from 14. You have some tax notes from 2016. You have some COs from 19, some tax notes in 21, and then you have some COs in 2 sets of COs in 21. So if you look at that, the original issue or principal that was issued was about 56 million. You currently owe 25 million on that. And if you jump to the next page, you can see that the county is going to be in a unique position here in about 3 years, where you're going to have the majority of all of your debt coming off the books. So if you look at, on the bottom, starting from the left to the right in 2022, 23, and 24, your bond payments are anywhere from about 5.5 million to 5.75 million. And then in fiscal year 2025, that's going to drop down to about 1 million. So we have here the list of all the debt that we just covered in the previous page. So this is just to give you an idea of what's going to be happening to your debt profile going forward. If you jump over to the next slide, slide number 7, this is the last rating report that the county received from the rating agencies. I'm sure you all have seen this before, so you all have been rated by Standard & Poor's and Moody's, which are the 2 largest rating agencies in the country. So if you look at your credit strengths, for S&P, you have adequate management and financial policies, you have very strong liquidity, very strong debt and contingent liability position, and you have a strong institutional framework. The credit challenges that you see here are common for anybody along the U.S.-Mexico border. It doesn't matter if you're a school district, a city, or a county. So I don't want to put too much emphasis on that. That's just more of a geographical issue that everybody has to deal with along the U.S.-Mexico border.
What is the weak budgetary performance and flexibility?
That just means that they took a look at, basically, it had to do more than anything with your expenses and your revenue, and maybe they just didn't see the consistency that the rating agencies like to see for counties your size and peers that fall within your peer group.
What kind of consistencies would they like to see?
Well, usually, they don't want to see deficits. They want to see continued growth in revenues. They want to see management of debt, management of expenses. They just kind of like to see consistency over a 3 to 4 year period.
So it's our deficit spending the issue here? Yes.
It appears that the last time that they rated this was something that they took notice of. Yeah, specifically, unless we get the actual report from them where it details exactly where this comes from. This is just kind of the gist of
Can you get that report?
Yeah, we can get that. We can go ahead and get that.
Can you get it and analyze it and give us
Absolutely.
what we need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you jump to the right of that page, so you have an A stable rating and an A2. Let me just be clear on that. You have an A stable and an A2 for Moody's. Those are very high ratings. So for Moody's, your credit strengths are your healthy financial position, affordable debt burden, your sizable tax base, and you have a strong institutional framework. And then your credit challenges, somewhat weak wealth and income profile. Again, that's everybody that's along the U.S.-Mexico border. McAllen gets the same point there. Laredo gets the same point. Brownsville gets the same point. Everybody does.
How does it affect your rating?
It really doesn't. At this point, that's something that's already baked in. And it's been baked in for 25 years. It's not anything that all of a sudden people are dealing with. That has been baked in for a very, very long time. And every time we have meetings with the rating agencies, we say, you all don't understand, with Mexico and the influx, the economies, it's different. You all need to come down here. Just because we're not in New York City doesn't mean that we don't have things going on here that they don't understand. So we've been fighting for 25 years in the industry along the board, but it's just more of a geographic issue there. So with that, what I have here, I have 3 different scenarios. Again, these are all just for discussion purposes. This is just to give you an idea of what the county would be looking at if you all would actually move forward with projects here in the near future with a dollar amount, and what would that mean from a tax impact standpoint. So with that, on page...
Real quick. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yes, Judge.
He said a little while ago, and on the slide where the amount of notes that are fixing to come off in 24 and 23. And well, we have a note, if the 2016 note comes off, which is a savings of about $448,000, what we're paying now. And then in 2014, the library bond also will come off, which is a savings of about 600. In today's, what we have scheduled in payments today, it's $673, $673,905. Basically, that's what you were talking about, was that we have $1,122,630 in two payments that are fixing to come off between 23 and 24.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 3.7 million that we get through pass-through money, because we received the 3.7.5 million. Our payment is $3,641,000. So we actually take $108,000 out of. It's a difference between what we receive in revenue and what we actually pay. That we're going to end up having. We're not going to have that money in come 2025.
Right. That's right.
So what it amounts to is we have about $1,013,000 or something come 2025 that we won't have payments on. So that's what he was getting at.
Right. So you can either drop your tax rate, or you can monetize that 1 point. Well, I'm just saying the scenario, or the scenarios is you can finance capital projects so that you can keep tax rates level.
So we could finance capital projects.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Since the library was a bond election,
Right.
the voters approved a tax increase to cover that. Does that, when that comes off, do they automatically get a reduction because it was a bond election?
Well, that depends on what the county does going forward. So the county, if the county court wants it to come off, then it'll come off.
But is it required? I'm asking.
It's not required. When you're done paying the bond, you're done paying the bond. But you can issue additional capital projects going forward, so you can keep rates level going forward.
Even though the voters didn't approve the additional, they have only approved the one.
That's correct. Because we're talking about different capital projects. We're not talking about the same capital project here. So you can issue additional capital projects that are paid out of the same bucket, even though you have particular projects like the library that were a voter referendum.
And we had that conversation you brought that up, when we were doing the bond. And I don't remember whether we wrote it in or we didn't, but that was a conversation.
We need to go back and look at the requirements and the issuance of what was required as far as the money that was raised to pay
Sure.
the debt, and I don't remember the requirements.
Okay, I'll get with your bond counsel on that, so that, because they're gonna play a role in that process and determining that also.
I think we wrote it, to where we could leave it in there and not take it out once the payment was. But we did have that conversation. I just don't remember
Okay,
what it was.
okay.
I'm sorry.
So
I think the thing to do is look at it when we get there. Right now, it's still some years away.
Yeah, well, and it would be good to figure out if we actually can or we can't.
Right. Okay, yeah, I'll get with your bond counsel and your auditor and just determine that one, and we should have that one for you pretty quick. So again,
Commissioners, Judge.
Yes.
Oh, okay. What was that question? The tax rate is going to take care of that for us. If there's no debt, then you can't tax for it. If that was the question.
No, that,
Right.
when we did this on the library, when we had the conversation, Matt, there was a conversation that once the debt was paid, if we were actually gonna write it into the note, that tax rate would have to go away and we couldn't use it. That was a conversation that we had.
Well, you okay.
I know
Yeah,
that-
how the calculation works, if there's no debt, there can be no tax.
No, I get it.
So,
But if we issued debt
Okay.
prior to that to cover by that tax, would we have to automatically reduce the tax because of the issuance, the way it was issued?
Well,
Or do we just issue additional debt and move on and keep the same tax rate?
yeah, I'm not following up the logic on that. We can work through
We
it,
can look
but
at it.
Yeah,
We'll look
essentially,
at it.
if If there's no debt, you can't charge tax.
No, no, no,
Your
and
tax
that's
on
not,
your M and O can only go up 3.5%.
no, and that's not the question. The question is, can you
Okay.
actually still issue debt on those pennies?
Yes.
But because we had that conversation, we were going through the bond, when we were gonna go out for a bond, was would those pennies automatically have to go away once there was no debt because of the library?
And I was pretty sure it was written in there that they had to go away. Now, I understand we can issue
Well,
debt and raise the
they have
tax
to
rate and
under
do
the
all
debt
that.
calculation.
Right, right.
I mean, that's our problem.
Right, so you have your tax rate. If you're done paying that debt, then you're done paying that specific debt. But you can keep those pennies at those same levels by.
And that's the question is that we really need to find out, because I don't know whether we wrote it in or didn't write it in.
Okay.
So maybe we'll just go through that.
I understand we can go issue debt and we can raise the rate and have the penny. We
Or
can
just
do
keep
that
it-
outside.
Just keep it the same, right, okay.
But we would have to have the debt in place by the time the note goes away, or we have to reduce the penny anyway, or 2 cents, whatever the number is. If additional debt is not in place to maintain that interest and sinking fund rate.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on what it sounds like, Commissioner, I think whether the rates go up or down by a penny or not a penny, as long as the new projects are qualified projects, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
No, the point I'm trying to get to is he's saying we have time, but we need to have those conversations about these projects now.
Right,
So
right.
that when, in a year or two, or whatever that does.
Right.
We're in a position to know what
And-
the rate's gonna be.
And let's not forget, thanks to 1869, knows that whatever you're gonna do with the debt has to be, within those exceptions. Can't just be for anything, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was gonna say, smart remark, but I'm not gonna get it alone.
So you have this based off of the $20 million issue?
Yes, that's correct, Commissioner. So this is a 20 million analysis. The next page is a 30 million analysis, and the following slide is a 40 million analysis. And I'm just going to go through it real quick. If you don't have any questions, just stop me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But basically, we're calculating for a $20 million bond. So we have, starting on your left to the right, column 1, we have your fiscal year. Column 2, we have your property values, your taxable assessed values. Columns 3, we're assuming for conservative purposes, no growth. We know the county is going to grow. Column 4, that's your existing outstanding debt service. In columns 5, 6, and 7, we're showing a $20 million bond analysis for a 30-year term. We're assuming a 4.5% interest rate, which is a lot higher than what the market actually is today. So we put in some conservative assumptions in there. In column 8, we have total debt service, which is your existing debt service plus this $20 million bond. In columns 9, we have your self-supporting, which is from your pass-through toll contributions. In columns 10, you have your net debt service payments, and what does that equate to in tax rate? So in column 11, you're currently at a 7.28 on your INS. So we're looking in the next column, you're looking at a 10.57% increase for a $20 million bond. So you're looking at a 3-cent increase on the INS, and then after that, it goes from 10.57 down to 9.23, and then little by little, it starts going back down, and it comes back to about 7 cents.
So you're short the first 3 years?
So, the first 3 years, you're going to see a slight increase. The first year, you'll see an increase of 3.29 cents, and then after that, it'll gradually decrease until it gets back to about 7 cents, and then it's going to stay flat. 7 cents until you get to fiscal year 2029, and then it'll drop to 5.
And that's on the 20?
Yes, that's on 20. So on the next slide, for the 30 million, same thing. We have all the same data, same information, except all we're doing here is we're sizing for a $30 million bond. So you jump over to columns 10. This is your new debt payment for a $30 million bond. Column 11. Now you go from 7.28 cents to 12 cents. So you're looking at a 4.7 cent increase from one fiscal year to the next, and then it drops from 12 cents to 10 cents, and then it stays flush at 10 cents down to fiscal year 2028, and then from there it starts going down to 98 cents. And again, these are all very conservative interest rates that we're using. You know, we know that if we were to sell bonds today, the rate would be much lower than this. We're also assuming in this calculation that
What, just a guesstimate?
yeah, you'd
Because I
probably
sat
be,
here and broke the interest rate and slashed the line through the 4.5.
yeah, you'd probably be, let's just say a 3.8 or 3.9.
That's gone up that much from what our current debt, because if you look at our current interest rates on some of our debt, it's pretty reasonable.
Oh, the 10-year treasury in the last 2 months has gone from 1.29 or 2 to basically 3%, the 10-year treasury. And the Fed already said they're going to raise rates this month, next month, and next year a couple of times.
So the cost of weight has gone from, if you look at some of our original interest rates, which are
1.3 to 3.47.
the highest one is 3.5, which is an old one, but they're basically 1 point to 2 point something, so.
Those days are long gone,
So
Commissioner.
the cost has increased.
Yeah.
What is the cost to us? The increased cost. So if we did a $20 million debt, had we been able to do it back then instead of today,
Sure.
what would be the,
Yeah, sure. I mean, based on your credit rating, if you were to do this 3-4 years ago, you'd probably be looking at something in the high 2s for a 30-year. So what does that mean? That's somewhere in the neighborhood of about, $200,000 to $400,000 in additional annual debt service right there. And
We borrowed one note, it averaged out to 1.3, and then the other one was at 1.7,
right.
and that was last year.
and our projections going forward in rates?
The projections in rates, it doesn't matter if you're triple or 2A, rates are going to keep going up for the next 2 years. And as of right now, with inflation levels that they are, the Fed has already signaled what they're going to try to do the next 2 years. There's no stopping the increase of rates.
So we'll be at 5?
I don't know that we'll get that high in the muni bond world, but for mortgages and vehicles and all that, yeah, we're already.
No, I'm talking about in our world.
No, I don't-
You're gonna get close to the 4 if we wait 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be higher in 2 years than what it is right now.
And so for every point, what would be the difference in savings? And I know. I'm
It's
asking
hard to
questions.
give you that exact number, without running some real in-depth calculations on that. But, given if you were to do it today versus you do it in 2 years, you're probably looking at another, $200,000-300,000 impact on an annual year, just on interest.
This time,
Yeah.
which
That's-
equates to about, since we generate about 270,000 per penny, it's 3/4 cent. More or less.
At least, yeah. You're looking at several more $1 million of interest. You're looking at several $1 million of interest difference between a 2.5 and what we're looking at today. And and everybody's going through the
No,
same
no, I
thing.
understand, but it's relevant in the discussion of when you issue the debt. Or
Exactly.
if you're gonna do a project and when you would issue the debt.
Right. I mean, if there's a priority of projects that the county already has in place, you have your wish list, your priorities, things you need. Yeah, the idea is to start talking about it a lot faster, because every couple of months you wait, it's just gonna,
Now, does
Pick
that
up.
rate change if it is a voter-approved referendum? It doesn't really?
no, because it's all being paid for with your taxes anyway.
It has no effect.
It doesn't matter if it's certificates of obligations or a GO bond, because your rate is what your underlying
Based
bond.
on, I didn't know if, because the voters approved the tax increase and the debt, if it would
Yeah.
help you with the rate.
No, it doesn't have an impact. Now, if you were doing, something unique, where it was maybe some kind of a revenue bond versus a voter referendum bond, then yeah, definitely that'd have a different impact. But since all of this, you're pledging property taxes, it's all pretty much the same.
And I know you're not prepared for this, but at some point, can you get the court information on how we look at venue taxes, those types of projects for sports facilities? You can do venue taxes, which include hotel, motel.
Okay.
sales tax, how those structures work. I'm not asking you to give me an answer today, but, how those structures function as far as the different options available for financing other than just straight property tax. There
Right.
are some other financing options I know in revenue it's kind of difficult because you gotta have a revenue stream and most of
Right.
the projects don't have it, but for like sport venues,
Mhm.
improvements to the fairground, those types of things, you can use venue taxes. There's a lot
Sure, of
different
course,
options
absolutely.
available. If you can get the court information on
Okay.
how all those structures work, and then, information on how the structures work on like public improvement districts.
Right.
TRIZs, TIFs, those other options to finance and fund different types of projects.
Sure.
And I know you don't have it today, I'm not asking for it today, but if you could get us a wider range of how all different kinds of options, like if we wanted to do something that was related to an industrial park and how we would, those types of things.
Sure, no, absolutely, and I mean, I can run some kind of a blueprint for you, but that's definitely a discussion that we want to include your bond counsel,
Mhm.
because they would be responsible for kind of creating and
No, I understand. I mean,
producing a lot of this.
It's more for a
discussion
conversation at
purposes,
another
right?
time, but I would like the court to understand the different mechanisms available to them to look at these types of projects.
Absolutely, yeah, we'll get it,
When you get into road projects, you start talking about TIFs and TERS and stuff like that, you can capture a percentage of the increase, right? I mean, there's a lot of different options that are available for different types of projects. So I would just like the court to have the information so when they're looking at these, they understand all the different options between venues and this and those types of things.
absolutely, yeah, we'll definitely prepare that for the next meeting and have that information available.
The difference between 1% point on $30 million, over a period of 20 years is a payment of about $172,000 to $177,000 per year.
Right,
That's percentage.
yeah, that sounds about, and that was for a 20-year?
That's 20 year,
Okay.
$30 million.
Yeah, so here, again, this is all just for discussion purposes. What we have in our analysis here is 30 years. But if you want to see going forward 20 years versus 30 years, we can make that adjustment in the next analysis.
What's
that
the
we-
max you can go?
You don't see anything beyond 30 years. I think legally, there's statutory laws that say you can go out 40 years, but you don't see anything go past 30 years. And, for counties, Bear County, Travis County, they're right in the 25 to 30 year range.
For large parks.
For most of their certificates of obligations or voter referendum bonds, they're right in that 25, 30 year range.
But you don't want to fund that project if the value of the project doesn't last the life of the note.
Right, yeah, you don't want to finance anything where the useful life is not as long as the term of the debt. That's right.
Now, any questions for him?
No, sir.
You good?
We're good, yeah. The next slide, it's the 40 million, it's the same thing. It just kind of shows you in columns 12, it kind of shows you the increase there. Now you're looking at 6 cents. But that's pretty much all I have in the next page, page 11. That just shows you all the bonds that we're following that the county currently has. We identify and we monitor those to see if there's any savings opportunities so we can refund and refinance some of that. For savings currently, you don't have anything at this time eligible.
Well, in this court, last year, we actually paid off a $1.7 million, revenue, bond because the rate was really high.
Right.
And we actually paid it off and then came back and ended up with a 3.9 and a 4.3. I think the 3.9 was at 1.7 and the 4.3 was at 1. I think averaged out to 1.3. So this court last year had actually paid off one of the higher or the highest.
Higher rates that you have.
Higher rated, money that we borrowed.
Well, while you're running those numbers, because there is a huge difference in revenue bonds versus taxable bonds.
Right.
As far as, can you make sure you give enough information the court understands the difference there? That if you do a revenue / tax pledge / venue, what goes, how that functions? Because if you're talking about a fairgrounds improvement, you could use it as a revenue / venue tax proposal. And I understand at the end of the day, you still have to pledge taxes, so if the
Right.
revenue doesn't come in, you're stuck. It just is what it is.
So you're saying you want to break down as to what portion of it is tax, what portion of it is revenue?
Kind of what the rates do and how that functions, so that the court understands how it functions. If you're
Okay.
doing a partial revenue tax
Sure.
pledge or a venue type deal, how
Right.
those functions, because it affects the rates. The revenue is always going to be higher than the others because you're projecting something that may or may not exist.
Right, okay. Sure, yeah, that's not a problem, Commissioner. We'll definitely have that prepared also.
Yeah.
What is the best option is the county to borrow money on a big project when it comes to bonds or certificates of obligation? Which one is the one that gives you like the best rate?
Sure, so as far as the best rate, you're pretty much, it's the same thing, because at the end of the day, whether it's a GO bond, or whether it's a CO, whether it's approved through a bond election, or it's approved through a notice of intention in the local paper, at the end of the day, you're pledging the same thing, which is property taxes. So when you actually sell the bonds, the rating agencies provide the rating. To them, to everybody that's investing, buying, selling these bonds, it's the same thing. So you wouldn't get a different rate for a bond that's voted versus a bond that's issued through certificates of obligations. You get the exact same rate because the pledge ultimately at the end of the day is the same. Which is your property taxes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the first part of your question, as Matthew had mentioned, with 1869, there are certain bonds or certain projects that fall within a line item. Anything outside of that, you could still issue COs. However, depending on the impact that it would have on your rates, that would have to be converted. The principal and interest would have to be converted, part of your tax calculation for your O&M. And if it's more than 3 cents, then it would trigger a rollback. But that's only specific items that do not fall within 1869.
And what are those items that fall within 1869?
1869 is all your major projects, which is streets, bridges, roads, parks, the main necessity items for counties. All of that is covered under
So
1869.
like sports complex and stuff falls within it, or it doesn't fall within it?
It depends.
That would be,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're shaking your head. Go ahead, Matt.
yeah, that would be, that would be a no on the 1869. What they kind of cover was just all the statutory duties, just the public service, as he was pointing out, the road and bridges, the stuff that what you're there for, to provide to the citizens. So but no sports complexes, no water parks. That's what they were very upset about last legislative session.
Well, the point I'm trying to get to is sports complex, fairgrounds improvements, those fall under a different,
Who determines what qualifies?
the state of Texas.
The Attorney General's office ultimately at the end of the day. But before we get to that point, your bond counsel would evaluate everything and let you know way in advance as to these specific items along with your county auditor, along with your bond counsel, they would determine right away the specific
I
project.
mean, it would make a big difference when you're talking about streets and parks, because that's an everyday service to the community. Sports complex is something that we don't have, that's new, I mean, and it's huge, it's gonna cost a lot of money. So that would make a big difference. I don't think it would fall under that category. I mean, that's me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the sport complex would be something that would be challenging to get it cleared and pay with it for your INS. Now, if the county decided, well, we're gonna carve out part of our O&M and we're gonna pay for that strictly with our operations and maintenance and reduce other items to make room for that, that's something that can be explored. But those would be significant
Yeah, but
cuts.
when you're
across
running
your
a
O&M.
deficit, when you're running a deficit budget, it's hard to find an additional.
Exactly. It's not easy.
So then they kind of force you to go to an.
Wouldn't,
But a judicial center would qualify, right?
Yes, a judicial center would qualify under your interest in seeking fund. Because that's part of a service that a county provides. Yes, Commissioner. So I think this is a great conversation. I think going forward, I think just getting an idea of all the different projects, having a discussion with bond counsel, and figuring out what falls into what category, I think that's definitely a big step in the right direction so that we can start moving on something at some point. I think it's figuring out which projects qualify under 1869, which don't, and if they don't, is there a way of maybe having them qualify? Those are all discussions that have, going forward. And I think this is a good starting point.
I got a question.
Yes,
We have 1,100,000 or million something left, in 2025. If we went to build a judicial center and the payment was $1 million on it, then we could use that payment, use the money that we're gonna have left over in 2025 to make that payment.
yeah, so you're basically supplementing, yes, you can do that.
If we did a sports complex and the payment was $1 million in order to do a sports complex, we could still use those pennies and that dollar that was left over, that $1 million, to make that payment, if that's the payment.
And that's the O&M, correct?
That is in the interest in sinking, that's what we have right now, that we won't have a payment for in 2025.
If you don't go to a bond election, you can't use the interest and sinking, you have to use the operation.
Well,
Because of the type of project.
sure. I mean, you can still issue COs without going to the voters, and you can still do capital projects through COs. I think when you're talking about the sports complex, to have a reduction on the INS and then transfer those pennies to the O&M, I think that gets a little, I think that can get a little tricky for the Attorney General to approve that.
But you could still do a certificate of obligation or still do a tax note for the sports complex.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you can go ahead and make room in your O&M. So you're gonna have a reduction on your INS. You're saying, I want to make that capacity on the O&M, and that can make the bond payment for the sports complex. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something, that
So
was
either way, the sports complex, just to be perfectly clear, a sports complex or a Fairplex or a judicial center, the money the payment that we're gonna have, that we have $1 million worth of payments that are no longer gonna be there in 2025.
Right.
In reality, either one of those three, that $1 million could be used to make that payment.
Right, as long as it's out of your budget.
No.
Correct.
No. As long as it's out of your M&O, you're absolutely correct. As long, I mean, David's absolutely right. As long as it's out of your M&O or O&M, I believe is what he's using. But that 1.1 that you get to charge in this tax rate, if there is no debt, no qualified debt in 1869 or no voter approved debt, you will not get to charge the cents to equal 1.1 million.
Okay, and that was the question, I guess, is what you were bringing up right now.
Well, and we need to have the conversation or you're going to lose the revenue. I mean, if we're going to do something, whatever that project may or may not be.
And that's like what I'm saying, if either one of those projects would qualify if there's debt before 2025 and that payment was gonna be made in 2025. Okay, now we're just getting blank stares. Yeah, well, we need to have a conversation though.
Well, no, I guess what is the actual question? Is the actual question
If we borrow
the $1.1 million?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I borrow $10 million or
Okay.
whatever, and my payment's $1 million, and I borrow it in 2024, and the payment's gonna be in 2025, $1 million or whatever, then I've issued debts for 2025
Sure.
or in 2024, so in 2025, I can use that money. Because I've issued debt.
Depending on the project.
If it qualifies under 1869, or if it's voter approved. I guess a better way to think about it is that 1.1 is going to go away, no matter what. Now, if you want to replace it with something that's voter approved, or if you want to place it with something that's an exemption in 1869, that's great. That's the perfect way to do it. But if you're just going to want to go out and this 1.1 comes off, the tax side, the 4 cents or whatever 3 cents it is now, comes off, and you want to do a tax note for something that's not an exemption, then no, you're going to lose that revenue, and you're going to have to raise it on the M&O side or cut something in the M&O side to pay for that.
And I think we need to have the bond council and have a lot bigger discussion. But as far as timing, we're in 2022, we're talking 2 years.
Okay.
They're just the process to put a project together to get the issuance. I mean, it's not as far off as it sounds.
Yeah, no, I mean, and once we have the projects, whether it's a voter referendum or whether it's just COs, that moves a lot faster than kind of nailing down the actual projects and the amounts and, you know, getting the engineers and all that involved at that point. Yeah, but the financing aspect of it and all of that does not take as long as figuring out.
But you can't do an issuance until we've hired an engineer, done a design, done a cost analysis, all the stuff that's involved in it, which is not a 2-month process.
That's correct.
It's a lengthy process.
That's correct.
So you have to have the money on the front end to hire those people.
Mhm.
Now you can reimburse yourself. for
That's
the
right.
bonds, understand that. But you still got to be able to have the funding on the front end to do those, to get to the point where you can actually issue debt.
That's correct.
Which if you're designing a judicial center, it's gonna take a year, or whatever that time frame is, and then you have all the time frame issues and approvals and all that, so 2024 is not that far off, we're halfway through 2024.
No, it's not. Yeah, you're right.
You know, so even if you started today, you wouldn't have a design on the judicial center until maybe sometime next year or later next year. By the time you look at the other, you're already banking on 2024.
Right.
Y'all good? Real good.
Well, yeah, but before Mr. Gonzalez leaves, I'd like to thank Mr. Gonzalez for coming down and putting all this together and educating us. It is a lot of information I don't think we've seen in a long time, so we do appreciate, or I do appreciate that. And then on the bond rating, that S&P is really, really old. I don't know if I would waste too much time on that. I think that goes back to 2017 or 18. The Moody's is actually actual. That came out in October. We did get the upgrade. And one of the things the only thing that they actually said negative was just that we were concentrated too much in pipelines and energy. So to alleviate that, we could certainly tell the pipelines to not come into our county anymore, which I don't see how that would be.
We'll pass on that.
Right. So it's plausible that we are always going to have that if they want to choose to pick on it. It's just, hey, that's what we do. We're a large county. We got a lot of pipelines. We got a lot of energy coming through here, and we will gladly take the revenue to offset the homesteaders. Thank you.
Gotta get a plug.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
That has to be the longest amount of time that we were taking on one single thing.
Thanks to you
Huh?
guys.
No? Really? Appreciate it, David. Item 10, discussion possible action approve auditor's report. We have none right now. Item 11, discussion possible action on following budget adjustments. A, Fairgrounds request to transfer $12,000 from building repairs account to fuel account.
Motion. Second.
All right, I've got a concern here. Are we gonna have enough money to continue doing building repairs, or do we take this money from somewhere else? I'm not saying you don't need the money, I'm just concerned about taking it out of building repairs. I don't know where we're at in the budget. I don't know what we gotta do.
Y'all wanna do this, and then if he needs money, he can come back for more building repairs?
And that's fine, I just, you know, either that or we look
Okay
at
with
the
that?
contingency,
Yes.
whatever you wanna do.
Have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, second Commissioner Flores. The concern was if there's gonna be enough money in building repairs, at that point, you can bring it back if you don't have enough money. Okay, that work? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. You know what, I messed up on item 10, we need to go back. Discussion possible action to approve the auditor's report.
Second.
So I didn't say something that I messed up.
Well, I thought maybe you knew something we didn't.
Motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0 vote. I didn't use that word, right? I said messed up, right?
That's right.
So we're good. Oh, we don't get text messages here in a minute. Item 12, discussion possible action, this is the one, treasurer's report.
No treasury report.
No treasurer's report, no action needed, that's the one. Item 13, discussion possible action to renew the Valverde County investment policy.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is something that we have to do every year according to Public Funds Investment Act, so we're just trying to stay in accordance with our capability to continue investing. No changes, by the way.
Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 14, discussion matters relating to COVID. I will have some questions in executive session, but our cases, are still hanging around the 50, 60 month, active cases, what I looked at. I'm sure that when everybody comes back over the summer, we'll have a spike, but that's life. Any questions on that one? Okay, move on to item 15, discussion on immigrants. Title 42 is still holding. They are shipping more people out. Our last report of how many immigrants were taken out, I got a report that on the 21st of May was the last report that I got, that I received, and that one was, who moved out 27 people that had got on a bus that one day, so we're over, I think right now we're a little over 1,200 to date since April. Again, Title 42 is holding, so we'll just have to wait and see. Any discussion on that one? Item 16, discussion possible action to accept the donation of a scoreboard by Del Rio Little League in partnership with Big Dave's Appliance Repair. The scoreboard will be placed at the county softball on Frontera Road. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 17, granting authority county judge and county auditor to sign draw number 2, Form A-203, revised requesting reimbursement of $10,271 for engineering architectural services and $705.13 for construction services for Texas CDBG 7220479 Alcoa Fuel Plant. Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, who seconded it? Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 18, discussion possible action to approve the use of Old County Court at Law building on June 13 by a law firm. If we could table this to after executive session.
Second.
I have a motion to table, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 19, discussion possible action to renew an automatic 3-year agreement for tax collection services.
Second.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 20, discussion possible action of waiving insurance requirements on projects and contracts under $10,000 and that do not include the construction or of a roadway, a structure or a roadway. I'm sorry.
We have a deal, we need to pour a slab, we have an individual looking for it for substantially amount cheaper, it's for a basketball court. We're running into a problem on insurance requirements. I'm asking the court to waive projects under $10,000 that do not include building a structure or a roadway. I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second this for discussion.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Flores. Commissioner Flores, we have discussion.
I don't have a problem with this, but I'd like, if we could increase it to 15,000, and this would be across, for each precinct.
As long as it doesn't include structures and stuff, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's fine, okay.
I'll amend my motion to go to 15.
Second accepts. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 21, discussion possible action on update of American Rescue Plan, ARPA funds, and discuss of funds available for special projects within the precincts. Commissioner Flores.
Matt, could you give us an update on the new money that we're, waiting on, or did we receive it already, or where are we at with it?
Yes, Commissioner, we've applied for the second tranche. Now, we did get our first tranche, I believe, May 14th or May 16th. Typically, you will receive your funds no sooner than 365 days before your first tranche. So we have not received it. We don't know when we're going to receive it. We know that around 4 days before you get the actual funding, what other entities are finding out is that they will get a confirmation email to expect the funds so that they can update the banks and update all of that rigmarole to know that those funds are coming. We have not received that email, but we wouldn't be receiving that email anyway because we are not away from the 14th or 16th.
But we should be
The actual
receiving it
numbers,
within the next couple of weeks or so?
It is plausible that we do receive it over the next couple of weeks, yes.
What is that amount, Matt?
I'm just getting to say it is gonna be June 14th.
No, that amount.
He asked what the amount was. Is it 4.7?
Yeah,
Is it the 4.7?
yeah, it's gonna be 100, it will be, Judge, yes.
And the reason I've been putting this item, I've had it a couple times on the agenda, is that, each precinct has, special projects, and we need money for those special projects. I've heard, several commissioners in past meetings, indicate they want to buy land and build a park, and, heard, Commissioner Wardlaw wanting to build his new yard over there, the old Eagle Pass Highway, and possibly also a park, buy some land, build a park. I've got a project myself, which is Cienegas Road from the duck pond to the city limit signs, that's really falling apart and needs prompt attention. So, and I'm pretty sure Commissioner Nettleton probably has plans for special project in his precinct. I'd like to make a motion that we set aside per precinct $500,000 of this new money that's coming in for these special projects.
I have a motion, Commissioner Flores. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
I have a motion, Commissioner Flores, second, Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, too many ayes. Commissioner Wardlaw, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Vasquez?
Yes.
Commissioner Flores?
Yes.
Commissioner Nettleton?
Well, I agree with this. I wish we had actual projects that are gonna have a life expectancy.
Real quick, this 500,000, when you say special projects in every precinct, Commissioner Flores, would this be funds that you could actually use, like to do a study or something on a road in case you need to do a road, or does it actually need?
Yes, if needed, studies, yes, we could use that money for that. I mean, Cienegas Road is a very important road. It's a corridor for the industrial park. All the traffic coming in from 40 Lane, from Dera, Finnegan Drive, and Johnson, they come in through Cienegas Road. And I'm talking big trucks with heavy loads. So it is a very important road here in the county.
Well, I guess I'm not questioning whether there's a need for that.
Yeah.
I think we all agree there's a need.
Let me give you this. I wanna do the extension of Ronstadt Boulevard. I've had some preliminary conversation with TxDOT. We need to do engineering and design before they're gonna fund the project. Would that still be utilized? Could I still-
Yeah, I mean, you could utilize it for that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a special project, yeah.
I just want to be clear before we say, everybody says yes or whatever, and then, we run into an issue that the intent was just for the actual road.
Yeah.
As long as it's for a study, anything that's.
Yes, anything that it's asked for, yeah.
All right, yes.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0 vote. Item 22, discussion possible action to authorize county judge to sign an interlocal agreement with TASB Energy Corporation. Motion, Commissioner Nettleton.
Is that gonna save some money?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's our electrical.
Yes, it is. It's for electrical
Is the rate
service.
still down?
Well,
Was it 7 something?
it's at, yeah, .07.
And then it has a fuel charge on it, and God knows what's gonna happen with that, or,
There's some charges on there, but it's
but it
still,
should be an overall savings depending on what fuel charge is.
yes.
Motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 23, discussion possible action to authorize the county judge to enter into and to sign an electricity agreement at a rate favorable to the county for 36.60 or 84 months. Pricing will be obtained through their purchasing cooperative.
Motion to approve the 36 month.
Second.
Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second, Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 24, discussion possible action to award PMR Inc. as the contractor on TIPS contract 220107 for removal and replacement of the roof panels on horse stalls F, G, H, I, and J. and the grandstands, and to include only the removal of the roof panels on the pavilion. The awarded amount is $563,829.75 minus the cost of in-stock material at a rate of $1.45 per square foot. The panels that we already have at $1.40, that we'll be able to deduct at $1.45 a square foot, are the panels only for the horse stalls. We've not bought the tin yet for the grandstands, but that price of tin for the grandstands is already included in the $563,000.
But we were looking at a price to rebuild the whole thing.
We are, because this is the last time that we brought it, we decided not to because we were at $2 million and the vote was.
No, but we were gonna actually go out and get the design engineer.
Well,
So we're just gonna repair what's there,
Repair what's
this is
there.
only the roof,
It'll
what
be
about the
the-
interior parts?
what we're doing, and there's stuff later on in this, we're redoing the roof. There's, another deal on here to go out and buy the block, the sand. There's 61 stalls, 61 walls between stalls that were torn down. So, you what?
Motion.
I have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw. Do I have a second? We'll go on.
Trying to figure out.
No, if we'll get a second, then we'll talk about it. We second it?
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner Nettleton. What we talked about is we're gonna do it in pieces, and then Commissioner Plus actually said before we spend any money, bring it back to make sure we know what we're doing. So this is what we're bringing back the roof.
Who's
There's
gonna
a-
build all this?
The 563.
No, that's a contract, the additional.
We're gonna buy the block, the sand, and the cement that's on here to do that right now and to do the paint, and then that's gonna go out for bid.
So we're gonna hire somebody.
We're gonna hire somebody to paint it, we'll hire somebody to do the block, and that was your concern from the last time. Also, we talked about the gates on the stalls, they were $273 or $276 per gate. That way they'd all be uniform and we weren't stealing any more gates from the stalls down at the bottom. So all that,
Okay, but we have, in insurance money, we had left
about $1 million.
$1 million. We've already spent 560 something thousand.
The rest of it, we have enough funds to cover it, the rest of it.
The rest of it. What about the repair of the stalls down at the bottom?
The repair down at the stalls at the bottom, and there was
We
three
haven't
plans.
decided if we're tearing them down or what we're.
There was three plans, there was a fairgrounds plans, there was a sports complex plans, and then there was the plan that you brought. And all three plans was the conversation that we had, and all three plans, the 5 shed-rows were gonna stay, and the other ones looked like they were gonna be torn down. So we were
You're
gonna
gonna tear
start.
down the ones in the bottom.
We're gonna fix those and then decide.
Uh-huh.
I just wanna make sure because the insurance money has to go to repair. If we leave them, we're not gonna be able to insure.
And what we talked about was if we fix the 5 shed-rows that were gonna be there the whole time, we could come back and figure out if we're gonna tear down the ones on the bottom
I
or keep
understand,
them.
I just wanna make sure that we all understand that if we leave them and we don't repair them, we
They're not
cannot
insured.
insure.
But we will have to, again, in all three of the plans that were proposed, they were not going to be there. So this court will have to make up their
Plans change
mind.
every 15 minutes, so.
It got so complicated.
We all agreed, which was a good thing, that the 5 shed-rows for damn sure were staying.
Yeah.
I understand that part, I just wanna make sure we all understand that at
It's
some
coming.
point,
It's coming.
we're gonna have to deal with that.
Mhm. Yes.
Just wanna make sure that we're staying within where we're.
You can't stop what's coming, though.
I understand that.
Okay.
If I could stop it, we've already stopped it.
If, your motion's gonna stand?
No,
Your
no,
second?
my second stands, I mean, we gotta get this done, but I'm just trying to figure out where we're headed with everything else.
Have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, second Commissioner Nettleton, all those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 25, discussion possible action to award or reject all bids for bid 22-08 for one compact wheel loader for precinct 2, Commissioner Vasquez.
I'll make a motion, Judge, to reject the bids, see if maybe later on, the Bobcat loader will be available on the buy board, so we'll be able to use
So
all
you're
the.
gonna reject this one?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Have a motion, Commissioner Vasquez, to reject, seconded by Commissioner Nettleton, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 26, approval to advertise for bids to construct a fence at the Jesus Jesse Cardenas Park located on precinct 1.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, second, Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 27, discussion possible action to procure material for the purchasing storage building foundation and labor. We had $45,000. We had $45,000 set aside in this year's budget to do the building. When we went out for a bolt-up building, the price for a bolt-up building came in around $35,000. We would not have, sorry, just the materials. We would not have enough funds to do it. So what we did is we went out and got prices to have a weld-up building, which came in around $20,000. And the materials for the concrete, we wanted to buy the material for the weld-up building, all the rebar, and then get a price to throw the concrete. So we should have enough money, for sure, to throw the concrete, buy all the material for the slab, do the slab, buy all the material for the weld-up building, and then see where we're at for the labor to put up the weld-up building. But we should be a lot closer to the 45,000.
We can't just do a bid to put up a building, including everything.
The thing with that is that we've contacted a couple of contractors and we end up really, really high.
Where is this gonna be built?
It'll be built where the building is right now, we're purchasing that. Behind it, there's a green fence, a lot that is fenced with the green fence. It'll be built in that one corner.
Okay.
Right
By
and
Gibbs?
it's 30, it's 30 by 60, the building, 1,800 square feet. We end up with a lot more money.
Well, I understand, it's just, are we gonna be able to piecemeal it together? I know we don't have a.
We have a contractor right now we have a couple of contractors that have given us prices on slabs, that have insurance, that we can do that, and then we get a price for somebody to weld it on.
That's
But
fine.
my deal is, and we already had the money there, the reason we're bringing it back to the court is, it looks like we want to know now everything that we do, so we're bringing it back to be able to move
All
forward.
right, motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 28, discussion possible action purchase primer paint for the building at the fairgrounds and as well as block, sand, and cement for the horse stalls.
Move.
I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner
This
Flores.
comes out of insurance money, right?
It comes out of insurance money. And we're looking at about, right at $30,000 for paint, sand, cement, blocks, everything. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 29, discussion of possible action for approval of lease agreement between Valverde County and Ana Marrera, the WMPA Women's Softball Tournament on 8/20/22.
Move.
Second. Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Wardlaw. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Did you raise your hand?
No.
Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 30, discussion possible action, authorize Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez to pay BDSO employees responding to the Uvalde
Motion to
incident.
approve.
Have a
Second
motion,
that,
Commissioner
Judge.
Nettleton, second Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. Sheriff, you did a great
Thank
job. I want to thank you, Sheriff, and thank your deputies and the young ladies that responded with, everything else that had to be done. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Item 31, discussion possible action to enact a ban on fireworks, missiles with fins and rockets with sticks.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion, Commissioner
Are we within
Wardlaw?
our time frame to do this?
Yes. We had to get it on this meeting. Commissioner Wardlaw made a motion. David, you leave it?
Yes, Judge.
No pressure. Thank you for coming. Have a safe trip back, sir. Thank you. Have a motion, Commissioner Wardlaw, second Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0 vote. Item 32, human resource report from May 24,
Motion to
2022.
approve. They're all in line?
I will second that, Judge.
Have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Vasquez. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries 5-0 vote. I'm sorry we kept you waiting back here. Discussion possible action on proposed TAC Health Employee Benefit Pool Renewal Pack or Plans Year 2022-2023 and authorize county judge to sign.
Go up again?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Judge, Commissioners, thank you for inviting me out here. to discuss the tax renewal for the county. It's always good to get a break from Austin area. I do live in that area, but I'm the employee benefits consultant for the county, but I do have the West Territory of the state, which is my favorite part of the state. It really is. Can't get my wife to move out west. I can't do it. But I just want to bring to the court's attention, for this past, not just this renewal, but last renewal as well, for the past almost 2 years, there has been a significant impact to the pandemic with the COVID-19. Going all the way back to towards the late 2020, all the way to early 2022, there's been a significant impact to the pool, where the pool has paid out about $37 million in claims that are just COVID claims alone. Okay, so there has.
The beds were supposed to cover all that.
Well,
what happened to that?
Well, as far as my understanding with the emergency, provisions that they put in place, it is going to be covering the, like the vaccines, the cost for the actual vaccines now, to administer it, for a doctor to administer, vaccines like that. That is a
It's not going to cover the hospitalization and all that.
No, sir. No, sir.
You're still stuck with that on your insurance.
Absolutely. And the thing, just to add on that too, we cannot control the increasing trend or the cost of healthcare. I'm talking about services, the medical supplies. Those are the things that are increasing, okay? And that's what the cost is when they do file a medical claim. The cost of just one aspirin in a hospital can cost, $10. I'm not trying to exaggerate anything, but I've seen.
I bring my own.
But I'm just trying to paint a picture here that the cost of healthcare is increasing. Now, for this current renewal, the pool came in. What we're projecting to pay out for claims for next year, and for the cost to service the pool or operating costs, the pool still came in at 5.9 as the average increase for the whole pool. 5.9. Last year was a 7%. This year's a 5.9. That's still coming in under trend for the state of Texas. The healthcare costs, the state of Texas is running about 13% as far as trend, as far as the increase in costs. So
all annual increase cost is going to be how much?
$155,992.32.
Yes, so this just for the medical costs, because of your claims, y'all are considered a larger group, larger county. Y'all have more lives on the plan, where your claims, just looking at your claims alone, that your claims you have more credibility. We're able to predict, more predictability, because you are a larger group.
I don't know. Did y'all get this one? What did y'all get in y'all's packet? Did you have those? Well, there's our current plan is $547.10. Our renewal rates for the exact same plan are $596.34. It's a $49.24 per employee per month increase, which is 260. Juanita, you correct me at any point that I'm wrong. 264 employees. What we have right now, it's an increase of $155,992. If we were to go with, and we have this conversation every year, if we go with option one, option two, in order to be able to save a little bit of money, everybody's deductible is higher. Our employees' deductible is higher. What they pay for medicine is higher. And the difference between our renewal and option one is about $54,000. With what our renewal is in option two, which is closer to what we have, is $51,000. So we go from option one, it's $101,000 from what we're paying now. Option two, it's $104,000, or we stick with what we have right now at $155,992 more than what we're paying now.
The only other option beyond that is to get out of the grandfather and go into a whole different.
Correct. So option one, still you stay grandfathered. It's about, instead of a 9% increase, it's about a little bit under a 6% increase. If you go for option one, you still remain grandfathered. a little bit out of pocket as far as the deductible, as Judge mentioned. You have a current deductible at $250, and then that, if you go with option one, that goes to $340 deductible. So that is a little bit more out of the employee's cost, out of their pocket. That is the minimum. That's the minimum. This plan, option two, this is the minimum where you can, or maximum that you can change your plan and still remain grandfathered. We have still about 50% of our counties and county entities that are in the pool are still at grandfather status. So they're still able to maintain it and still be able to afford their grandfather plan right now. So as you know, the grandfather plans, you have very strict restrictions on how much you can change your plan in order to save on costs.
You know, I hate to hit the employees with an additional deductibles and all that stuff. So my motion is to keep the current plan that we have. At some point, we're gonna have to have a business session. It's gonna get way too expensive for us to.
Absolutely, and I would recommend or for the court to entertain maybe putting together like an insurance committee to think about, in the future, if the cost does keep going up, do we need to change our plan? But there needs to be some good, honest discussions on how that needs to take place.
So I'll make a motion to approve the current plan that we have, and for us to put together a committee to start looking at this for the future, and I guess we can bring back some or whoever we want.
Second. Okay. If you want, right now, when we get closer to the end of the budget, that way we can look and you can provide us with a report as to what our claims were and like for what, and then we can sort of itemize it as far as, what different people would have paid.
Absolutely.
I know we've got HIPAA rules, but once we have claims and we know, we can go back and say, okay, this is how many people would have had to pay the $500 extra or the $1,000 extra, or depending on whether option one or two, and then we can also see what it's cost us on prescriptions for our employees.
Absolutely.
And see what those costs are.
Absolutely.
So when we get closer to the end of this year, end of this fiscal year, we'll put a committee together. That way we can put it back, bring it back. Hopefully I can bring it back in January.
But we can
We're not
definitely,
campaigning.
we can definitely generate a report, just specifically for Valverde County, indicating, as far as aggregate numbers, how many people are, the dependents, the employees are actually using the plan.
There's not many of our employees purchase it for the family. The percentage is extremely low because it is so expensive. I think we only have, there's not very many that purchase for families. And I don't remember what the number, but it's low, and we've had this conversation every time about how do we come up with a way that the employees can afford to buy their family insurance.
Absolutely.
Six?
Yeah, there's not.
So real quick,
How many?
in that, I'm sorry.
No, how many? How many?
About six.
How many?
6 out of 264.
264.
I do want to note, Judge, you probably saw that in the meal packet, the court does participate in a wellness incentive. If you do want to continue with that wellness incentive, just have to sign that off as well. I do want to point out that with that wellness incentive, y'all have had a high participation of your employees actually getting their annual physical. That's great. It's great. We're all about preventative. We want you to catch things early before things are at a later stage. But just want to note that the highest category for your chronic conditions is hypertension, okay? High blood pressure. But you ought to work here. Retire from tax, to come work here.
90% of that comes from these 5 up here.
But with that said, with the high numbers of annual physicals, which is great, as far as participating in the wellness programs to help manage, to deal with those hypertension, with those chronic conditions, they're still at a very low participation rate. So we can encourage people. It's a choice. We're not trying to tell people what to do, but we live in Texas. We're very independent. They're going to do what they want to do.
We love our tacos.
But it's just, we got to get more engagement. And the HR department, I do want to say, they've been very engaged as far as wellness. We were just recently out here teaching employees how to, make and drink a healthy smoothie, drinks and stuff like that. So we're very, very engaged.
Yeah, I didn't like your smoothie. It didn't include alcohol.
No. Yeah. I'm not gonna go there, Judge.
I'll amend my motion to add the judge sign the health, what was it?
The wellness
Health Wellness Center.
Second accept.
And just for the record,
Judge, I had a comment, if I may.
yes, sir, go ahead, make your comment.
Okay, Ernesto, thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking the drive. Hey, what is our percentage of utilization rate? How many people actually hit that $250 deductible?
I
Do you have that number handy?
I do not have that report, Matt, but, that's that report that I was talking about where we can generate, the aggregate numbers of how many people actually meet that deductible and everything. So, if that's something you want me to share, I could definitely,
No, as like I'm not saying, if it, closer to the end of our fiscal year, that way we'll make sure that we actually bring that back.
yes.
We can figure out, Matt has said that we set aside another set of dollars, to help individuals
Absolutely.
meet their deductibles or whatever, because of the savings that we might have, and it would be to our benefit. I guess that's what you're getting at. I hope.
Yeah, that is true, Judge, yes, the HRA. However, I believe TAC has an exciting product coming out next year with the HSA, which really is for the younger generations, and we're all about building this organization from the top up. So we have the TCDRS, which is absolutely awesome, and then in the future we may have the HSA.
All these acronyms, it's like, nobody gave me a sheet, Matt. Next time, give me a cheat sheet, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Those would definitely be great discussions with that research committee.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely, but the HSA is a health savings account. Yes, sir.
I wrote that one down because you said it the other day and I wrote it down.
Yes,
just
sir.
to make sure. I have a motion, Commissioner Nettleton, we changed the motion, added something, Commissioner Flores accepted that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, anybody against, motion carries, 5-0 vote, discussion. Item 34,
Thank you.
discussion, thank you, sir, we appreciate it. Discussion and approval authorizing county judge to sign contract in Valverde County and MRGDC to participate in the Student Employment Experience Program. Second. I have motion Commissioner Nettleton, second Commissioner Flores, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries, 5-0 vote. Item 35, closed session consultation pursuant to Texas Government Code A 551.071, parentheses 2, attorney-client privilege, B 551.071, parentheses 1, parentheses A, contemplated litigation, C 551.072, regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property and possible action open session thereafter, D 551.073, regarding a negotiated contract, lease, and value of real property and possible action open session thereafter. Take a 5-minute break, and then if y'all will give us the room, we'll go into executive session. Thank y'all so much. Carl, you did it. Waiting for the light to turn on.
The light bulb went out.
Yeah, there we go, we're on. The court will come back from executive session. No action was taken. We're gonna go back to item 18, discussion possible action to approve the use of county
I'll
court.
make a motion to authorize the judge to work with the county attorney to send a letter in response to this request.
I'll second that.
Motion Commissioner Middleton, second Commissioner Vasquez, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody against? Motion carries, 5-0 vote. Commissioners' comments? None. County judges' comments, we already heard earlier that our insurance cost was going up, probably gonna be around 155 plus our dental, probably about 160,000 more than what we usually pay. So to give y'all some information, computer or server refresh or whatever, is budgeted, we'll need a budget this next year, probably about 375,000. We have a deal with Tyler that we've been informed, we were at that meeting the other day. Don't really have a number for that one yet, but I'd say probably a couple 100,000 the way it looks right now. So 375 for RAM for servers, 200 for Tyler, 160 for insurance. Appraisal district also came in, their portion, is gonna be about $85,000 more than what we had this year.
Went up a lot.
Huh?
It went up a lot.
Mhm. A bunch. Well, it's $85,000 more than last year. So just in those four items, for y'all's information, it's about $860,000 more or less, what we're gonna have to add to next year's budget. And we'll get those numbers to y'all later on, in writing, but just wanted y'all to hear that. That's it. That's all I've got. Y'all, no commissioners' comments. We good? We can adjourn. Item 38, we're adjourned.